Clemente, what do you think about Duran's coverage of this? So it's funny. I saw the video that you sent me on Duran talking about Biden is going to be like a lefty or something to that effect. No, they're way off on that point. Sanders and Warren. Warren was instrumental in helping Biden get over the finish line more than anybody else in that race. Think back to the primaries. Don't forget the primaries. You had a situation where Elizabeth Warren attacked Sanders far more than she went after Biden during that race. And despite saying, I'm not going to accept the super PAC, I'm not going to accept the super PAC, when she ran out of money and she should have left the race and backed Sanders, at least that's what her supporters thought she was going to do because those supporters thought she was a lefty. What did she do? She took super PAC money to stay in that race and kneecap Sanders, allowing Biden to crawl over the corpse and shuffle his way to the finish line. For Warren to put a knife in him, not just once, but twice. And for Sanders to stand there with his back turned to her to allow her to do it, to some degree, means it's his own fault the second time around. My point is this. Biden didn't give her squat for that. She's not going to get the Treasury Secretary position. The Democratic Party has been screaming. Why do you think the Democratic Party has been making the argument that, oh, we lost the seats in the House because of progressives? They said defund the police and people fell apart. And you make the point, yeah, that doesn't quite make sense because, you know, the lefty policies like the marijuana stuff, Oregon legalized all drugs. You had another situation where psilocybin was legalized. And even in the various places, the candidates that backed Medicare for all, every last one of them won. So what are you saying? In the middle of a pandemic, it is shocking that the public would be on board for some kind of single-payer health care. You got 10 million people infected in the United States, and that number is only going to go up. That number went up by, 1 million in 10 days. What is it going to look like going forward when the death spike? And you don't believe for a minute that the public will be on board for Medicare for all? Monstrously so, they are. They are. Biden is not for that. He's not for any of that stuff. He has 47 years in Congress. Biden is going to take it back to status quo. He chose Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is basically Obama, is basically Hillary Clinton, is basically pretty much every other Democrat. That's why they coalesced around Biden. They didn't coalesce around Biden because they were going to introduce the left. They coalesced around Biden in order to kneecap the left because Biden was the only candidate that was able to sop up the black vote to stop Sanders, which is the only thing that mattered in this contest more than anything else. This is not a rejuvenation or ascendancy of the left. It is the opposite. In fact, the groups like Black Lives Matter are going to be erased. They're going to go away. You're also going to get people like AOC and all of these other people. They're going to try to marginalize them just like they tried to marginalize them before. Meaning when Sherry Bustos is blacklisting groups that help progressives, or when the DCCC or SCC, when both of these groups have decided to marginalize, blackball groups that help progressive candidates go after incumbents, who do you think that is there to protect? It is there to protect that class of the Democratic Party, the third way neoliberal Democrats. They wanted to prevent people from like AOC or from these other people in the squad with like Bowman from getting in office, or Ilhan Omar. They're sick of them. And so their goal was to mitigate, to prevent, and to stop. And all of them, like Chris Matthews said, if Sanders wins, he's winning for a generation, not just for one term. Why would he win for a generation? Because the moment that Sanders is standing beside somebody like a Joe Biden, you know who the real lefty is. Meaning you know who the person is going to represent your interests. When you look at all of the policies that during the course of the primary, Sanders, especially towards the end, was winning all of those policies. With the exception of one, which wasn't a policy at all. Electability. And that was the area to which he didn't even throw a punch. It's kind of like Brexit. You can talk about the NHS all you want. If the conversation is Brexit, the issue is Brexit. You got to deal with it. In this case, the issue was electability. And that was the thing Sanders didn't fight on at all. So Biden is a repudiation of the left. AOC and all of these people didn't even talk to AOC. And when he's putting in people like Mitt Romney or people like these other Republicans in his administration or his cabinet, that's not an indication that he's going to reach out to the left. The opposite. It's the opposite. When Sanders was running in this race, and it looked like Sanders was going to take it, they shit a collective brick. Look at the way MSNBC is acting. They were the propaganda outlet for the Democratic Party. If you wanted to know what the Democratic Party looked like, what did Chris Matthews look like when Sanders looked like he was going to take it? Frazzled, out of his gourd, going so far as to get fired. So they were freaked out. Billionaire Bloomberg jumps in the race, spends $1 billion for a race where he just got embarrassed in. Do you think he did that for shits and giggles? No, he didn't. He did it because he was terrified. He thought, oh my God, that socialist is going to run away with it, and he's going to tax the shit out of me, and I'm going to have to pay, instead of wasting $1 billion to run in a stupid primary, I'm going to have to actually pay that in taxes so people can get health care and education. I don't want to do that. I'm Bloomberg, so I'm going to jump in the race. Yeah, he gets embarrassed. I don't even know, the hubris of that. But I'm making the point that he came from behind the shadows because he didn't think Joe Biden could carry the burden. That burden being to stop Sanders and to stop a left that seemed ascendant. Yeah, I think he gets this one wrong. This is American politics. So this is my wheelhouse, not necessarily his. And in this very specific instance, that Biden is not going to be this kind of Manchurian candidate for the left. He is the opposite of that. He is the resurgence of centrism, if you want to call it that. But that's what Biden is. He's the thing that tries to restrain the forces of the left by bringing in this kind of centrism. The problem is it's not going to work. By 2024, with Mitch McConnell in the Senate, Mitch McConnell's job is going to be to make sure Joe Biden is a one-term president. And even if that wasn't Mitch McConnell's job explicitly so, he is not going to give Biden victories without those victories being the ones that he wants. Meaning he will be topping from the bottom, S&M term. Basically, the person who's the sub is giving the orders in this kind of weird backwards way. But in this very specific instance, the people who Biden gets for his cabinet, he has to go through McConnell. McConnell's not necessarily going to do Biden any favors, even though Joe Biden thinks these guys are buddies and that these guys are going to have some kind of relationship. Maybe behind the scenes, but I would imagine he's going to go after him every bit as much as he went after Obama or every bit as much as he went after Clinton. It's his job. It's his job. This was the guy who wouldn't even bring up Merrick Garland for a vote. And so we're going to expect him to somehow be pleasant to Biden. Nah, I don't buy that. Biden may have those people in his administration. Biden may be on board for passing either tax cuts or passing these other kind of policies that's going to be in the best interest of his corporations or the people who are dumping money into his pocket or whatever. But that's Biden's purpose. That's his purpose. Just like it's, what's his name? The Black Whisperer, Clyburn's. Just like it's Clyburn's purpose to basically shield the Democratic Party from attacks on this notion of taking blacks for granted or taking the left for granted by throwing in issues of identity. When me and John Lewis was getting beat by cops, we were fighting for the Democrats. And it's like, yeah, dude, I get that, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about issues of class. And you're talking about issues of identity to hide behind those issues of identity to basically be a cover and a shield for the Democratic Party. That's not what we're talking about. Yeah, Biden, if he doesn't get anything accomplished, and those people who voted for him for whatever the fuck reason are disillusioned, Biden may have a hard way to go in 2024. And I would imagine that will be Mitch McConnell's job. So, yeah, I don't think they get that one right, even though McCarris is fucking phenomenal. So, yeah, he's become one of my favorite people on the show, easily. His knowledge of Nagorno-Karabakh, the foreign policy is just so on point. So yeah, Duran, love the guy. One more thing. The Democratic parties, what their game might be also is to wedge Kamala Harris into a seat. Meaning the thought being that no, she can't win a primary because she's magnificently unlikable. By the same token, if you wedge her into the vice presidency and Joe Biden croaks, then maybe as president, whoever is running against her will have a harder time running against her as a Republican. Because at that point, your bar is low. She doesn't have to do much to try to get over that bar, but, be able to read and breathe and whatever. Meaning the people who may be running against her, she may believe she has a better chance. Because from the standpoint of just a general election, running against a Republican, well, you have Democrats who just reflexively vote for that person. So even though she couldn't get a black vote in the primary, maybe she'll be able to get a black vote in the general. That could be the thought. Basically, wedge her in. Let Joe Biden, if anything happens to Joe Biden, not trying to say we want something to, she can be the new generation. Continuity on the inside with a new black female face on the outside. It's basically the third wave Democrats for a new generation and to sucker a bunch of other people in using identity in lieu of actual real things. You know what you could do? Keep Kamala Harris. Give health care. Keep her. Give health care. I'll take the Jewish guy and I'll take the health care. This nonsense that she is somehow beneficial to blacks. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. All right, I'm going to leave this here. Like, share, and of course, subscribe.